Hello, Steve Arts 89. Well, I've been enjoying the Munsters the last couple of days. I've had a bit of a marathon. Now, even though I'm in Australia and it's supposed to be summer, the last couple of days in Melbourne have been winter, and it's been rainy and windy, and it's been the perfect weather to watch the Munsters. After Wednesday, I sort of wanted to watch the Addams Family, and I had a bit of a franchise marathon. I watched everything but all the 1992 animated episodes because they're not all available. And one of the things I found was there was a lot of criticism in the documentaries of the Munsters. And after the Addams Family, I wanted to move on and do the Munsters as well, because I bought all the TV shows on DVD years ago and didn't have the time to actually watch them. I grew up watching them in syndication, and I saw a lot of them on cable and taped a lot of them and watched the videos back in the day. But I don't think I've actually sat down and watched every single episode. I certainly haven't watched them in the last 10 years or so since I've had a widescreen TV. So I know I watched them last on an actual television. So this has been great. And I think some of the criticisms were a bit harsh. One of the first things that came up was that the Munsters copied the Addams Family, and that they were just like a cheap knockoff, that the Addams Family show was being produced, so they had to make something to rival it. I don't think it really happened that way. Although I was surprised to see one of the writers actually admit that, well, yes, they did base it on the Addams Family to some extent. I think what happened was, like Filmways, they saw the Addams cartoons and thought that'd make a great show. But of course, when the people who approached Universal, to do a show on the Addams Family, they were basically told, well, why would we want to go pay Charles Addams for his characters? We've got our own, family of monsters. So why don't you just go use them? And I think that's just what happened. So while the Filmways people actually contacted Charles Addams and licensed the Addams Family to make a show, the Universal people were just told, use our classic Universal monsters and just make a TV show based out of them. And I think when both shows started out, they were both sort of kind of subversive. They both focused very much on looking at the sort of traditional family values, sort of sitcom sort of shows. And the people who wrote the Munsters, I think, also wrote Leave It to Beaver or some of the classic shows. So they both started off doing that quite a bit. But the Munsters was more slapstick. And I think once both shows came out and they started looking at them, they both went in very different directions, and the Munsters became a lot more slapstick and a lot more sort of big comedy, whereas the Addams Family went a bit more with the darker sort of more subversive sort of commentary on society and that. And it does play a little bit to the detriment of the Munsters, because some of the episodes have some really over-the-top slapstick scenes, but there's not a lot of it. And it doesn't bother me so much, but it doesn't age as well as, say, the Addams Family. And I think the problem with the problem with Rob Zombie's new film, because the other reason why I wanted to go back and watch the Munsters was to make sure I wasn't being too harsh on Rob Zombie's film, because I was basing everything on my memories of the Munsters. I hadn't watched it in years, but I pretty much remembered it accurately. And what he did was he focused on the worst elements of the 60s show, things that only just worked for kids in the 60s, and then tried to recreate it and exaggerate it. And that just makes no sense. And that's why that film just does not work, and it's just atrocious, especially the scenes when they're driving through LA and it's like a cartoon. It's just ridiculous. And he just focused on the worst couple of moments from the worst couple of scenes of extreme slapstick comedy in the series and tried to make a whole film out of that. And just... it's just baffling how he did that and how anyone gave him money and allowed him to do that and didn't stop him. So I hate the Munsters movie, the new ones. Now the classic ones I haven't really seen. I remember after I watched the original series, because the original series was on syndication when I was a kid, and I don't know if they went from Addams Family to Munsters or if they showed them back to back, but they're on around 5 o'clock every day. And it was just like the highlight of a year or two of my life was watching the Addams Family, the Munsters, and the Munsters Today. I got so obsessed with the Munsters, I actually bought fake spider webs and spiders and made my whole bedroom look like the Munsters house, to the point where I was putting powder all over everything. And then that wasn't good enough. I pulled out the dust bag from the vacuum cleaner and threw dust all over the place because I wanted to look exactly like the show. I don't know what that did for my health, but I was obsessed. I even used some foam from some things and actually sculpted Lily and Herman life-size and made life-size figures of them with the costumes and everything, and like sat them on the couch for ages. I was obsessed when I was a kid. So I love the show. I enjoyed watching it again. It does hold up. It does have some over-the-top slapstick, which is probably aimed at kids, which is unfortunately what Rob Zombie focused on. But overall, I love the show, and I'm excited now because now I've watched the whole series. Now I've just got all the coloured stuff to watch. So I've got the coloured episode, Family Portrait. Now I haven't seen that. I don't know if it was. I think it was originally filmed in colour as an experiment, or someone actually recoloured the whole episode. I'm not sure, but it's a whole episode that's in colour. I'm going to watch that. I've already watched a bunch of little 30-second test fan colourings just to sort of, I think, show what the show would look like in colour. And of course the original 15 or 13-minute pilot cut down for 15 minutes with Phoebe and all that. So that's kind of interesting to see that in colour first. I watched that first, then all the black and white episodes, and now I'm going to watch the one colour episode, and then I'm going to watch the movies. And that's what I'm most excited about, because when I was a kid, I managed to stumble across, I think on a Saturday, or maybe it was on the holidays, it was during the day, stumbled across a Munsters movie. So it wasn't just a half-hour block, a 25-minute show in a half-hour block. It was like a whole 2 hours of the Munsters in colour, and I was just amazed. I just remember sitting in front of the TV just being just absolutely just amazed by it, and I loved it. Now what they did was, in 1966, after the series finished, they did a movie which was done sort of to help, because they had everything sort of still in place, so they did a film, and that was to sort of help sell it to the UK and international audiences, where they were going to launch the series in syndication after it had finished in the US. Now, I thought they'd filmed it in between season 1 and 2, but I think that's what they did with Batman. They made the Batman film in between season 1 and 2 because season 1 was really big, and they sort of probably made it for the same reasons, not just to be a film in America, but to also use it in international markets to sell the series. But I never really saw that series. I never really saw that movie, so I've got that to look forward to. And there's a good version of it in widescreen, but it was filmed in full frame, but the full frame version is from video, so I don't know which to watch because I miss a little bit of the frame, but the quality is so much better on the widescreen version. So there's that. And then there is the second movie, Munsters Revenge, which is the one I saw on TV, which they made in 1981. So the actors are all a little bit older, but they're all mostly there. We're not even going to talk about the Marilyn issue. I mean, my God, they had one Marilyn for the first 13 episodes, and then they replaced her with another Marilyn. They replaced her with another Marilyn for the film after the series finished, which didn't make sense to me when I thought it took place, the filming in between the seasons. The fact it was after, I'm like, oh, so they had her contracted for the series and they didn't bring her on for the movie after. That sort of makes sense continuity-wise. But then there are the Munsters Today. I loved the Munsters Today back in the day, but it hasn't aged as well. But there's also only about 20 episodes on YouTube. Why it hasn't been released on video, considering how well it did. It went for 3 years. It was quite well received. A lot of people remember it fondly. I really wish it would be released. I'd like to see the whole thing one day, but I've got 20 episodes of that to watch. And then I'm going to watch the new reboot Munster movies, the ones that were done before the Rob Zombie one, which look like they're actually trying to make the Munsters in the style of the original, but as a modern film. So they look decent. I haven't seen them yet. All I've seen is the one scene where the original cast comes back as a family in a restaurant that Herman's working in. That's the only part of those films that I've seen. I somehow missed them. I bought them but didn't have time to watch them, just like I bought the series and didn't have time to watch it. But I'm really glad, because had I died and not seen every episode of the Munsters and the Addams Family, I think that would have been a tragedy. So, and it's just been really exciting to find these other series and movies that I hadn't seen, like the Halloween with the Addams Family. I hadn't seen that, so I finally got to watch that. I had it on video for years, but I hadn't actually managed to watch it. Seeing the new Addams Family 2, which I hadn't watched yet because I missed it in the cinema, and now getting to see the original cast in colour in those two films and the two new reboot films, as well as revisiting Munsters Today, which I haven't really seen since it was on TV when I was a kid. So it's all pretty exciting. And I even opened my Herman and Lily Munster dolls. But Herman's great. Lily, I'll do a review of them later. There's some issues, but there's also some other toys and some Migos that I might get. But I'm heading around in 10 minutes. I should stop. This is just a little revisiting the Munsters video. I just want to talk about how much I loved the Munsters, and some of the criticisms I thought was sort of actually kind of based in reality but not necessarily fair, and just my overall feeling of the show. And I just wanted to share how much I enjoyed the show, and just yeah. So feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think of the Munsters. I'm probably going to buy some more merchandise, and I really, really hope that not only does Munsters Today get some sort of release, even if it's on streaming or something, video would be preferred so I can own it. But the other issue is I want the original Munsters in Blu-ray, or at least a proper scan, because the quality was a little bit off. Some of the episodes were grey, some of the episodes looked like they're really contrasty old film that had been recopied. And the other issue was one episode even had the insert ads, like cards in the breaks. One of the ones that wasn't particularly good quality. But we'll see. Hopefully we'll get them. I'm going to go. Bye.